All right. So welcome everyone. I'll turn my camera on real quick to day 2 of the 2024 KYAC conference. Thank you all for being with us this morning. Yes, I am. Thank you for that reminder. Something else I forgot to put in the stream text. So the link for the stream text is now in the chat box if you all would like to click on that. My apologies, David, for not doing that sooner, and thank you for the reminder. So let's see, I think we got everything. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started. And everyone should be here for pulling museums into libraries with Miss Laura Poole from the Hickman County Memorial Library. So Laura, thank you for being with us this morning, and you can take it away.
Okay. My name is Laura Poole. I'm the director, of course, at Hickman County Memorial Library. I'm also a homeschool mom, and I have a huge background in libraries and museums, but museums is really where I started. So sometimes you just can't help yourself but to pull in what you know and what you love. And let's see. Doesn't want to let me switch slides. There we go. Okay. Of course, I already said that my background is in museum work. I have 24 years of experience, and then my bachelor's degree is in history and anthropological museum studies. So when I landed in library land, I always wondered how I would be able to pull what I know into what I'm doing now. So the opportunity finally arose where we could add on to our library, and the new addition brought new square footage to put in interactive exhibits. And with those interactive exhibits, we were able to pull in the heritage of the river counties. Oh, we don't really need that one. So there is science behind playing, and we really wanted to embrace that in our exhibits. Then you have just a few statistics that at age 3, a child's brain is 80% developed, and by age 5, their brain is 90% developed. And so they can be in here playing in the archaeology pit, and they're being exposed to things that they wouldn't be exposed to normally. So we're accidentally educating, but we're doing it in a fun way. So they might get to college 10 or 12 years and go, you know, this is really familiar. I think I played with something like this in my library. And so it was just kind of a fun way for us to be able to incorporate that. And then, of course, we're in a very rural area, and we don't have a lot of opportunities to go to things like Discovery Park of America. We do have that, and it is close, but it's not something that's accessible to everybody, where you can come to the library and access it for free. When you ask Google for statistics on brain development and play, never mind. We have papers falling off the wall. Sorry about that. Okay, so the playing is learning was really important to me as I designed the different exhibits. It was important for economic development. It was important culturally. It was important experiences that it does provide for the children. And there is information on the walls within the exhibits for adults too. So we really can span multiple age groups per exhibit. And so that was really an easy way to incorporate lots of information for lots of people. And then if you look here at the archaeology exhibit that's in front of you, it looks like they're playing in the sand, but it's introducing science, archaeology, the Mississippian culture. There are a handful of pot shards they can pull out and play with and look at. They have designs in them. So it's really sensory oriented. There's also a skeleton in the pit, and as you dig him out, you can lay the parts out onto that red table, and there's a chart above you about how the bones should go back together. So there's really a lot more happening than just playing in the dirt. What makes an exhibit interactive? The experience, for one. It's dynamic, it should be engaging, it should be captivating, it should be meaningful. The value of it is found in a new era of audience, engagement, and learning. Again, it's multisensory, it enhances the education. It's really cool just to walk in and see the thing, but if you get to do the thing, then it holds a lot more. It holds your interest. It holds a lot more meaning. And I feel like this slide is the guideline for what makes an exhibit interactive and why it's even important. Always consider emotion and experience when you're designing. Ask yourself, does it hold value? So let's blend them, right? Let's merge libraries and museums. Museums and libraries, they just make sense to me. Even Mr. Webster agrees. So on here you have that a museum is an institution devoted to procurement, care, study, and display of objects of lasting interest or value. A library, a place where literary, musical, artistic, or reference materials such as books, manuscripts, recordings, or films are kept for use, but not for sale. Everything is a collection, and then you can see the connection between the two. Collection, objects, materials, interest, value, display. And then again, there is the word value, interest. You'll see those connect a lot as you go, and you'll see them connect a lot as your patrons use what you create. This culture corner right here, this exhibit is where it all started. I spent 4 years teaching preschool, and that alone was an experience, but this is where Culture Corner was born. I tapped in again to my anthropology side, and I taught anthropology to preschoolers on a level that they could understand. And then with it, I sent home a newsletter that would incorporate games, maybe food to try, different things that they could do as a family. When I came to be a library director, I thought, I can incorporate Culture Corner again. I can still use this. So it first started on the red table that the skeleton now lays on. It started there with a computer screen, a PowerPoint that played on a loop, and a handful of books. And so now you can see there where it has grown. There's a cozy rug, there's interactive things, of course, there's books, it's all paired together. And it's a lot of fun. This is one of our largest displays that we do for Culture Corner. So when you are building an idea for exhibit work, be creative. Start small. Again, one shelf, one table. That's how Culture Corner started, and it developed into an entire wing for children's interactive exhibits. Pull in local interest. Look at your local calendar. Is there a festival going on? Is there something you could pull in that's interesting from the fair even? Again, the Culture Corner that was on the last slide was from Native American Heritage Month, which happens every November. So use the things that pop up easily. They're easy to glean from. They're easy to compile the information. Join forces with your local museum or historical society. Make it fit your community. This is another example of the one table, one shelf idea. I took a chalkboard and said, what does your cave painting tell about you? Create your own using brown paper and art supplies. Well, if you break this down piece by piece, it's incredibly simple. It's brown paper, crayons, Conte chalk pieces. I think there were some colored pencils in there, but it's surrounded by children's books about cave painting. It becomes meaningful because someone has read the book to them, they have looked at the pictures, now they get to create their own. So you're hitting the mark multiple times. But again, see how simple it is to put that together, and instantly it's interactive. And this is just kind of another view of it. It's the slideshow, the books around it. I felt like adding books was a #1 way to include the library. Remember that you can tailor. You can make your exhibit as personal as you want it. You can make it as global as you want it. You can make it as big and shiny and interesting, or as simple as you want it. You should tailor it to meet your needs, your community's needs, and your library's needs. Okay, I call this museum math. I tend to go local. Here I have my brother, because it says find a local connection or a brother. And so what that just means is find someone who's willing to help you. If it's the museum, if it's a historical society, if it's the extension office or the school system, find someone who is willing to help you, willing to partner with you, because it really pulls the interest into a next level experience. Our area is rich in Native American culture. We have mounds. We have records of encounters with settlers and natives in the 1700s, and we have some Trail of Tear action. We're on the binge route, so it just makes sense to keep it local, to pull in that area of interest. My brother does have a Shawnee name. It means that panther jumping down. I will not attempt to pronounce it for you. But why is that important? Who cares if my brother, that panther jumping down, is actually helping or not? It means that I tapped into a resource that knows what they're doing. A lot of times, reenactors, living historians, people who do particular things as a hobby, even for candle making, they put a lot of effort and research into what they do. So when they take a day off work to come and pull into your presentation, they're not going to do a bad job. They're going to make sure that they put just as much into it as you're hoping that your patrons get out of it. This is another shot of our Culture Corner from the Native American Heritage Days. We brought in the school. So we made sure that we had field trips coming in for this day. And we did a Native American Heritage Day. We left the gourds up. We left the war clubs up. Now, the axe you see is sharp, but it's on the very top, where nobody can touch it. And then, of course, there's clothing. There are things that people can touch. There are things that people can experience. And we left it up for the entire month. So we did have just one big day, but then it was still accessible even if you missed the one big day. Again, keep it local. Keep it important to your area, your demographic, and your audience. You're going for a meaningful experience. This is where we first brought a boat into the library. And when I told my board of directors that I wanted to put a boat in the children's section, they only batted their eyes for a couple minutes. And I had 2 parts of boats laying around in the floor for multiple weeks, so I could decide which end was the coziest. Turns out the back end of the boat is the coziest. We stuff it with pillows. The mural is done by local artist. The shelf beside of it has games, books, of course. There's a little ferry boat and cars, which again is local to us, because if you drive just a short distance, you can take the ferry from Hickman over into Missouri. So you're keeping it local with little things, little toys even. This is where it gets personal. Why not, right? You're trying to invoke emotion. You're trying to keep it interesting. So this is actually my great-grandfather. And when you read the part that says his story is tragic but very full of the bluff, that is something that local people here would understand in Hickman County. Bluff Road is notorious. It's full of stories. And when I say my granddaddy was shot and killed out on Bluff Road, everybody knows where that is. So I've kept it local, I've kept it interesting, and I've kept it important because people are still alive that remember that happening. There's a little bit more museum math. It's been 2 years since we built the children's wing, and then you want to keep it fresh. So we kind of left everything laying low for 2 years, watched how it was used, how it was developing, the different interest points that kept people's attention. We did constantly change Culture Corner. We've continued to bring new paints into Color Me Crazy and different art mediums into Color Me Crazy. But we've also added some virtual reality glasses and a globe that is also a virtual connection. And then there's a whole list of different things. We want to add this in the coming weeks, we want to add this in the coming months, and we want to do this within the coming years. So we kind of have a plan of how we're going to grow the different exhibits as they continue to exist within the library. The general museum rule is that you have 3/4 of your collection in storage and that you have 1/4 of your collection out for display. And find a closet, find a corner of your office and stick those extra pieces in it, because it is going to be important to pull those things out and keep it new and keep it fresh. And when you do that, you find that people really enjoy finding new things. Oh, look, Mom, they've got a whatever that's never been there before. Excuse me. One of the most important ways to make your exhibits successful, to make tying museum antics into library land, to make it successful, use your community connections. Make sure you're pulling in field trips. Make sure that you're connecting with your homeschool groups. Use it for summer reading. Contact your extension office. Maybe have an event following a parade. This year we're doing Christmas Around the World. We have our Christmas parade on Saturday, and then on Sunday, Santa Claus is coming to the museum, but so are multiple booths. So if you think the old school science fair with the trifold billboards and sitting on top of like a card table, that's the effort into setup that's going to happen for Christmas Around the World. We have banks, we have businesses, we have local families, we have the local museum coming in to set up for Christmas Around the World. I gave a list of countries for people to choose from that they wanted to set up as a destination place, and then they will have games and a tiny bit of research and something tasty to try from that country. We recently had a lady from New York move to town. I say recently, it's been about 4 years, but she's Greek. So as the museum representative, she's doing Greece for Christmas Around the World. Again, use your community. They're a wealth of information. Usually they're more than willing to pitch in and to tag along on this great adventure because we're kind of all in this together. So once again, I'm going to say it. You're probably tired of hearing it. A meaningful experience, which is different for everyone. It can be fun. It can be playful. It can be deeply impactful. And your library is the place that can make it possible. There are different museum experiences for everyone. I once went to a museum in Richmond. The lighting was incredibly low. You walked into a cone, and that was the only place that you could hear this extremely mournful music as you looked at the faces of people that particular part of history had impacted. So you can do something as simple as the brown paper and the cave activity, or finding some historical interpreter to paint themselves and come in and pass out beads and sample food, or your entire community coming together to do Christmas Around the World, where they create a Christmas destination around the globe. And we're using simple things like Amazon decorations. So it's not something that you have to overthink. It's just something that you have to make a little bit neat or a little bit cute and put a little bit of effort in. And it's the experience from it that the kids are going to remember. I know that my first aha moment, I was a third grader, and we were on a field trip to Land Between the Lakes to the home place. And our historical interpreter, her hair was fixed exactly. Now, at third grade, I didn't quite know what an 1850s hairstyle should look like, but now I know for sure. So her hair was fixed, her apron was on, her boots were tight, and she leaned over and she spit a stream of tobacco. And she took that black boot and she rubbed that boot into the dirt to smudge out that tobacco. And I thought, oh, that's cool. This is the level of effort I want to put into sharing creative things with people who come through my library. And so that's what I try to do. I try to remember that moment when I'm designing, because I want it to have meaning. I want it to have emotion. And emotion can be anything. Emotion can be something you laugh at. Emotion can be something you go, oh, I didn't know that. That's neat. So you just want the experience to mean something. So go create a museobrary or a librarium, however you feel that it's going to work for you. and pull a new activity in and make it your own, because your library is the place that's possible. Thank you. If anyone has any questions, tips for researching? Yes, if you're going to keep it local, make sure you tap into your museum, your historical society. They'll have artifacts, they'll have pictures, they'll have information. If you can find just one reenactor that's local to you, you can kind of judge the level of effort that they put into their interpretation, into their information, and they can open a wealth. Any of these places, even your extension office, is a good place to tap into for research and information.
All right. Laura, thank you so much. If anybody else has any questions, feel free to unmute your mic or put them in the chat there.
Yes, that's how I saw the last question. It popped up in the chat.
Yes. Yep. So.
I tried not to stare at the chat too much when I was talking, because it's like, oh, I want to talk about that too.
Well, and if you saw anything in the chat that you want to talk about, we've still got a little bit of time, so.
Okay, if let's see.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hello. Yes.
Awesome. I was wondering, do you mostly do archaeology and anthropology, or have you also done like some paleontology as well?
I mainly focus on anthropology and archaeology because that's my background.
Yeah.
But who doesn't love dinosaurs? You know, my little boy loves dinosaurs. He knows the word paleontology, and it's something you could pull in. They make those little eggs that you chisel away in the clay. If you toss those into a sandbox and let them dig for them, or put little plastic dinosaurs in a sandbox and let them dig for them, as they're doing that, you can talk about paleontology. You can lay books out for them to choose from. You could have a reading session to go with it. So, you know, you could easily turn it to a paleontology experience.
Yeah. I'm working on a couple of kits right now, and one's going to be like anthropology and archaeology, and the other one's going to be paleontology. And I have the supplies to make like my own little dig kits and stuff, so I'm very excited about that.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm just really nervous about like getting things accurate, because things are going to be like really small. But like when I was a kid, I would get like grumpy if I found out later it wasn't accurate, because I was just one of those little kids.
Okay, so you're third grade Laura that was like, ooh, she spit tobacco. I need to know if they did that. For your
that's cool.
The first time, don't worry about it, because the 5-year-olds are going to love it. They're going to eat the sand, you know, they're going to drop it in the floor, but they're still going to love it. Even if you find later a piece of information you missed or something else you wanted to include, they're still going to love the experience. So I would still try to pull it off.
Yeah, thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Nicole and Laura. Is anybody else? Like I said, if you have anything, even tips, recommendations, you want to ask Laura more questions. Jennifer Sullivan from Anderson County in the chat said, if you're near Louisville, the Falls of the Ohio lends out fossil kits for teachers and librarians. So Louisville might be a little bit ways from Estill County, but they probably are somebody you could call and be like, hey, you know, what's a way I can set up our own kits here?
I love it. I also have one more maybe off-topic question. Is I've made like a mini science kit that I'll improve eventually, but I like the idea of having documentaries on like included with like the book and like the activities. Do you know where to find good science documentaries?
There is, I hate to say YouTube, but believe it or not, there are a handful of short, kid-sized documentaries. PBS is a good place to find documentaries. Let's see. I was trying to think. I use YouTube a lot and PBS. Even in homeschool, we use those two resources a lot. And you can kind of judge when you're looking at it. I try to preview it first, and you can kind of judge which ones you want to use and which ones you want to avoid too.
All right. Laura, thank you so much. We still have a little bit more time if anyone has any more questions or comments. If not, just want to thank particularly Laura for being here today and everybody for joining us. Like I said, we can hang out here for a little bit longer. The next session in this room starts at 11 a.m. with supporting STEM learning in young children. So hope to see you back. If not, back in one of the other rooms. So we can just give it a few more minutes and see if anybody has any questions.
And if anybody thinks of anything later, feel free to email me. I'm pretty easy to find, so.
Wonderful. All right. Well, it looks like